Today I will be detailing how I installed fog lights on my 2001 Chevy Silverado 1500. This is the LS trim. The LS trim does not come with fog lights from the factory. It actually comes with a blank valence. You have to either buy a new valence or you can just cut out the block off plates and install the fog lights. The fog lights themselves are pretty cheap. They're about $25 on Amazon, and they come with the bracket that you need to mount them. The fog lights actually mount to the bumper. The only thing you may have to buy is the hardware to mount the fog lights to the bumpers. Mine are smoked, so I'm going to be changing them out pretty soon because the light output is terrible. But other than that, the installation of the fog lights is pretty simple. The only thing that you're going to run into trouble with is the harness. Now, most people think that you can just buy a harness and the factory switch and wire them up, and that's all you have to do. But for the 9902s, that's not the case. It'll work on the 03 to 06s, but not the 9902. These trucks, the 9902s, are controlled, the fog lights are controlled by the BCM. So after you do the harness and the switch, you have to take the BCM to a dealer and let them program it. That'll set you back about 100 to maybe 130 bucks. Okay. So I bought a nightlight harness off of Amazon. It was probably about $8, and it's exactly what I needed. I just had to modify it a little bit to make it do what I wanted it to do. I also bought a loom to protect the harness. This is tucked beside the fender. It goes behind the battery, down underneath the fan shroud, over to the passenger side, and it connects to the passenger side fog lights. You also have to get the connectors that go from the harness to the fog lights, but those can also be purchased on Amazon. What I did was, I have my fog lights, they work off of a toggle switch. The toggle switch controls the first relay controls the second relay, and the second relay controls my fog lights. And as far as the toggle switch itself, this is a 3-pin rocker switch. It has, this one in particular has a black wire, a white wire, and a red wire. The black wire is ground. The white wire is the power in. That's what you actually power the rocker switch with. And I chose to use switched power. To be specific, I used add a fuse right here, and it is actually wired into the rear windshield wiper circuit right there at 15 amp. There's no rear windshield wiper on this truck, but that circuit is still live, so I actually wired that one. I did a fuse, add a fuse, and that one is wired up to the white wire on the back of the rocker switch. The red wire goes out to power your accessory. In this case, it goes to pin 86 on the actual the first relay. And this toggle switch, it only works, like I said, it only works when the switch is on. So now I have power, no power, power. So if I forget to turn it off, when I turn the switch off, it kills the power to it anyway. I wired it like that because that's the way I wanted to do it. I'm very forgetful. But in a nutshell, that's pretty much it as far as the details on how I wired everything up and how I installed it. That'll be in the rest of the video. But just remember, for the 99 to 02, if you decide to go with a factory harness and fog light switch, you also have to have the BCM programmed, because the BCM controls the fog lights on the 99 to 02. Alright, that's all I got. Enjoy the rest of the video. Of course, you want to take your bezel out in order to get to the fog light switch. From there, you want to I know if you have a 4x4, I don't know if this comes out the same way if you have 4-wheel drive, but I don't. I just have a empty space, so you can kind of, if you can get a screwdriver or maybe even your fingernail, lift up on this tab and then just pull this out. And then as far as from here, there's a tab right here that you lift up, and I believe there's also one on the bottom. Yeah, you can get a screwdriver on that or your fingernail and kind of pry it downwards. The switch will pop out and then it unplugs. From there, I'm going to actually disassemble the switch and then begin my drilling. Once you get the switch out, you see the harness is plugged in, and then right here there's another little pry tab. You can pull that back with your fingernail. It's kind of hard to do it with one hand, but you basically You pull this back, and then you take your other hand and pry it out. I'm going to do that now. Alright, I have the switch out. And like I said, I'm going to disassemble this. As you can see, those are more tabs. So I'm going to get this apart. And then I'm going to take my step drill, my step bit, and I'm going to actually drill the hole there. And I may have to actually drill another one in the back so that I can run my wires. Or I may even do it in the bottom. I'll probably do it in the back so I can run my actual fog light wires through this. And this is what it looks like once you get it apart. Alright, I have drilled my hole and installed the switch. Like I said, I use a step drill bit, and I also drilled a hole in the back so that my wires could pass through. Now when you take this off, there's going to be a tab. There's a plastic piece that kind of sticks out. I just took a pair of pliers and broke that plastic piece off. It's not really needed because it was actually hitting the red wire, so I had to break it off to keep it from hitting that wire. But yeah, got the switch installed. Now I'm about to reinstall it. And here it is installed with the bezel back in. I don't know if you can tell on the video, but this is actually installed a little bit too low. The bottom, the actual edge right here of the bezel is touching the light switch, but it really is not a big deal to me anyway. But all right, so I've got my harness. I got it loomed up. Got the loom off Amazon. This harness actually came off Amazon too, but I just cut it up to make my own. And basically, I'm going to run this right here. It's going to go to my battery. I'm actually going to install it right here. It's going to go to a inline fuse and then to here, and then my ground wire I'm going to actually mount right over there in the corner to one of those two screws. That's going to be my ground location. Other than that, I'm going to run the loom. I have snaked it through here beside the battery, down through here. It's going to run underneath the fan shroud all the way over to the other side where I'm going to make my connection to my existing fog light wires. Alright, underneath the fuse box housing, I have my inline fuse that goes to the battery right here. Tap to this. This lead comes off the battery, off the positive cable. So this will be a 12-volt constant. And I have also got my ground set up right there on that stud. That is a 13 millimeter, by the way, or ½ inch, whichever one you want to use. And that will basically be the ground for my relays. I mounted my relays to the side of the fuse housing. And now to hook everything up. Okay, this is going to be a basic rundown of how I made my fog lights work using 2 relays and the rocker switch. I use a 3-pin rocker switch with 2 single pole double throw relays. So for relay number 1, pin 30 goes out to an inline fuse and then to the positive side of the battery. Pin 85 is grounded. Pin 86 goes to the rocker switch. Pin 87 goes off to pin 30 on relay number 2. Pin 87A is not used, so I depinned that one. Relay number 2, pin 30 again, it connects to 87 on the first relay. Pin 85 is grounded. 86 goes to the high beam switch at the ignition. It's going to be a tan wire. 87 is not used, so I depinned that one as well. Pin 87A goes out to my fog lights. This is a basic diagram of what that looks like. So pin 30 again goes to an inline fuse and then to the battery. 85 is grounded. 87A is not used. 86 is going to go to my rocker switch. And then 87 is going to go over to pin 30
on the second relay. 85 is grounded. 86 goes to my high beam switch. 87 is not used. 87A goes out to my fog lights. And the reason I wired it like this is because 87A is normally closed, which means that whenever you supply current to pin 30, it automatically flows out of pin 87A. Now, when I activate this relay, when that coil activates, it disrupts the connection between 87A and 30, and then the connection between 87 and 30 is made. So when I turn my high beams off, it deactivates this coil, and now the connection between 87A and 30 are restored. So that is the way I hooked it up to make it work pretty much like factory. And from the factory, the high beams, when the high beams come on, the fog lights automatically go off.
Okay, so I have my fog light switch installed. I have it actually, I installed a fuse tap, and it's plugged into the rear windshield wiper circuit. Obviously, there is no rear windshield wiper on this truck, but that circuit is still live, and it only gets power when the switch is on, so that's why I chose to use that circuit to power the actual toggle switch. Okay, right here I have my fog lights hooked up. I have everything hooked up except the lead coming off of my high beam, that 12 volt coming off my high beams. I just went ahead and hooked everything up except that, and you can barely see my fog lights. That's one of the reasons why I want to switch them out, because those are smoked lenses, but the fog lights are on. And I'm going to switch my, I'm going to turn my high beams on right now, and the fog lights should stay on. Alright, the fog lights are on, and as you can see, the high beams are on and the fog lights are still on. So I'm going to finish hooking this up. I'm going to put the lead coming from my high beams to pin 86 on the second relay. So with that said, when I switch my high beams on, the fog lights should turn off. Okay, so I removed my steering column and this cover that goes right here. That's the cover. I've removed it, and this tan wire right here is going to be the lead to the high beams. So I'm going to tap into this wire, run it through the firewall out to my relay that's connected to the fuse box, and that should be a wrap for this. Alright, so I have my I have a wire hooked up to the tan wire coming off my high beam switch. I have my positive lead hooked into one end. I'm going to ground it, and as of right now my high beams are off. So alright, it is now grounded. Got just a little bit of current. Now high beams are on.